The Corvette, 107 days. No arrest, no answers, no closure. Right now, somewhere in Tucson, Arizona, a family is waking up without knowing where Nancy Guthrie is. And the man responsible for finding her just walked out of his office and got into a Corvette. We'll get to that car. But first, two things I'm going to show you in this video that you need to see. Promise one, I'm going to show exactly what went wrong at Nancy's house on day one. Not speculation. Actual accounts from inside the department. Promise two, I'm going to show you why the FBI had a plane on standby and why that plane never left the ground. Stay with me, both of those answers are coming. But right now, the Corvette. Fox Digital caught it on camera. Sheriff Chris Nanos, walking out of the Pima County Sheriff's Office, relaxed, unhurried, getting into a sports car like it was any other Tuesday. 107 days since Nancy vanished. 0 arrests. And that's the image the sheriff is putting out into the world. If you've been following this case, hit subscribe right now. I am making calls on this every single day. You won't miss another update. Now, I want to be fair here. The sheriff can drive whatever car he wants. He's earned it. But here's what retired FBI Special Agent Steve Moore told me about that moment. If you are not succeeding, I wouldn't show up with bravado at work. I would show up like a blue-collar worker trying to get the job done. The Corvette isn't really about a car. It's about what happened before it. Starting the night Nancy disappeared, and the hours that followed that should have changed everything, but didn't. The Corvette is a symbol. But what it symbolizes starts the night Nancy went missing, and what law enforcement did and didn't do in those first critical hours. Day one was a disaster. Here is Promise One, delivered. I spoke directly to Sergeant Aaron Cross of the Pima County Sheriff's Office. He described the first hours after Nancy vanished, and the word he used, more than once, was chaos. Think about what that means. Detectives arriving on scene, family members already inside the house, emotions running high, people moving through rooms, touching surfaces, searching, and no unified command structure holding any of it together. I asked retired FBI Special Agent Steve Moore what that kind of scene looks like from a law enforcement perspective. You are not allowed to have confusion at a crime scene like that. If there's confusion, it means nobody is in charge who knows what they're doing. He's not being dramatic. He's describing a standard that every trained officer learns at the academy. Crime scene management isn't optional. It's a rehearsed play. You separate the family, you assign roles, you protect the physical evidence before you do anything else. You run it like an emergency room. Fast, calm, and without confusion. That's the standard. Now, here's what actually happened. Nancy's home sat without FBI involvement for 5 days. 5 days. The most forensically critical window in any missing persons case, and the FBI's evidence unit wasn't there. Meanwhile, family members had moved through the house. The scene had been opened and closed, and the clock on recoverable evidence was running. I also spoke to Morin, a crime scene processing expert. She told me something that stopped me cold. If all I found was a hair, my boss would say, "You have to go back in. There's got to be more." 1 strand of hair. That's what we know about from Nancy's house. If you find 1 hair, Steve Moore told me, there are probably 10 more somewhere that were missed. Evidence doesn't disappear on its own, but a contaminated, unprotected scene that can make evidence disappear forever. So who decided to leave that scene unprotected? And why did the FBI wait 5 days? The crime scene is one problem. But there's a bigger one, because when the FBI offered to fly Nancy's DNA to Quantico, someone said no. Someone said no. Here is Promise 2 delivered. FBI Director Kash Patel said it publicly. He had a plane on standby, ready to fly Nancy Guthrie's DNA evidence to the FBI lab at Quantico for processing. That offer existed. That plane never left the ground. Instead, the Pima County Sheriff's Office chose a private laboratory. I want you to understand what the FBI was offering versus what the sheriff chose instead. Here are 5 things you need to know about that decision. 1. The FBI operates what Steve Moore calls offices in a can, a full evidence response team flown in on a jet capable of processing an entire scene with equipment most county departments will never own. 2. Quantico isn't just a lab. It's the most advanced forensic processing facility in the country. Speed, scale, and accuracy that no private lab can match. 3. Kash Patel went on national television to talk about this. Steve Moore was direct with me about what that means. That is the nuclear option. Directors don't do that casually. He was trying to break a logjam. 4. The FBI has quieter ways to send messages. The FBI National Academy, a prestigious training program for law enforcement leaders, is one of them. Withheld invitations are a signal, a very loud one, delivered in silence. 5. There is now an active effort to remove Sheriff Nanos from office, a recall movement, pressure from the Board of Commissioners. And here's the brutal reality Moore laid out for me. Even if the sheriff is the problem, removing him mid-investigation creates its own chaos. Decision vacuum, learning curve. A new person asking, "Now tell me about that lead again." There is no clean answer here. Only a worse situation built on top of an already broken one. Nobody has explained publicly why that FBI plane stayed on the ground. That answer, if it ever surfaces, may be the single most important answer in this entire case. Tell me in the comments, do you think the sheriff blocked the FBI deliberately, or do you think there's something else going on here that we're not seeing? The investigation is one story, but Nancy herself is another, and 107 days in, the search hasn't stopped, and neither have the false alarms. What a body would change. A few days before I filmed this, searchers found human remains in the Arizona desert. For a moment, everyone stopped breathing. It wasn't Nancy. Deputies who know that desert told me some things I haven't been able to shake. Search the Arizona desert long enough and you will find human remains. Migrants who didn't survive the crossing. People who were never reported missing. The desert holds more secrets than this case alone. But here's what Steve Moore told me about what finding Nancy, her body, would actually mean for this investigation. It would be a treasure trove of evidence. Where the body is found gives you intel. Things that are on the body. Even at whatever state of decay, you are still going to have useful evidence. Think about what location alone tells investigators. It tells you direction of travel. It tells you what kind of vehicle had access to that terrain. It tells you where to look for surveillance cameras. And it tells you something about the person who put her there, because perpetrators don't drive 100 miles out of their way to dispose of evidence. They go where they know. Steve Moore said it plainly. Somebody's not going to drive 100 miles in one direction to dump a body and then come back. That will help you. 107 days. And somewhere out in that desert, there may still be answers waiting. Nancy Guthrie had a home, a family, a driveway where tire tracks may have been left in the dirt. She is not a case number. She is a real woman who has not been found. Subscribe and hit the bell. I'm going back to Arizona. This case is not done, and neither am I. Tell me below, do you think Nancy is still somewhere in Arizona, or do you think she was moved? We don't know where Nancy is. We don't know who is responsible. But the window to solve this case is not closed. Not yet. Window is still open. Here's where this case actually stands. 107 days, no arrest, no confirmed location, a crime scene that sat open for 5 days, an FBI plane that never left the ground, a strand of hair and whatever else they haven't told us about, and 3 words from the sheriff caught on camera outside his office. We're getting closer. Steve Moore heard that. I asked him what it meant. Technically, if you eliminate one person in Arizona that day, you've gotten closer. I would need something more than that for it to mean anything significant. That's not progress. That's math. I'm still making calls. I'm going back to Arizona. I have sources inside and outside this department, and I am not letting this case go quiet. Now, the Corvette. Come back to that image with me. The sheriff walking out, unhurried, getting into that car while Nancy's family has spent 107 days without answers. Maybe he's a man who has run out of answers and doesn't know how to show it. Maybe he doesn't realize how that image lands. Either way, Nancy Guthrie deserves better than that being the image we associate with her case. What does that Corvette moment tell you about where this investigation really is? Tell me below. I read every single comment. Subscribe, share this video. Because the more people who know Nancy's name, the harder it becomes for this case to go quiet. And it cannot go quiet